Hello, I'm retired Battalion Chief Larry Cockman from the Greensboro, North Carolina Fire Department History Book Committee. We're here today at the Greensboro Historical Museum. I'm standing in front of the General Greene, the first steam pumper, or as they called it back then, a steamer. Today, December 9th, 2019, we are starting a new tradition of recording and preserving the heritage and culture of our retirees. Our retirees have contributed so much to the success of our great fire department. Their stories retire with them and are sometimes gone forever when they pass away. They will share their emergency calls that will always be a part of their memories forever. So sit back and listen as they carry us through their journey in the Greensboro Fire Department.
My name is James Patterson Williams. I'm soon to be 69 in a couple of months. I joined the Greensboro Fire Department in 1971. I retired with a total of 38 years service overall. That was sick leave and everything. Enjoyed every minute of it. I'm originally from Greensboro area, South Greensboro, matter of fact, that I'm proud of. The Asheboro Street. I attended Gillespie Park High School, or Gillespie Park School in elementary. Went to Central High School uptown, many people never heard of unless they're fairly older, and used to walk by Old Station 4 every Saturday. And that's where I got my look at the fire departments, on Asheboro Street across from Calvin Wiley School. I had a High Point fireman that played a big part of me getting on. He was a friend of mine I hunted and fished with. He's quite older, but his friends my parents. And he asked me one day, have I ever thought about being on the fire department? I said, and I hadn't given it much thought, but I said, it sounds exciting. And he was kin, his wife was kin to J.E. McCarter somehow. And so that's how I met Mac. And Mac put in a good word for me, hopefully, and I worried Chief Powell enough till he finally told me, don't call me no more, I'll call you. And I waited about 2 days and called him again. And so he finally told me, come on in. But Mac, I owe him, and I've told him that I owe my whole career from J.E. McCarter. He played a big role in it. I am related to a gentleman that's on now, Tyler Chambers. He's my nephew on my wife's side. I hope I played a little part in helping him get employment before I retired. He was not on when I was there, and I'm proud of him. Well, I graduated school in '69, Ben L. Smith, and ever since I was 15, had been working pretty close to 40 hours. I graduated, and during high school in my senior year, was able to get out a half a day, go to work for a company, and I had worked my way up from a paper cutter, what it was, to in the office coat and tie job, and I was miserable. It had to be more in life than working towards Fridays, off Saturday and Sunday. I hated it. Was friends with a gentleman that was a High Point fireman for years. He was a few years older than me, but he was good friends with my parents, and he asked me if I'd ever considered going to work for the fire department. I said, I hadn't given it much thought. At that time, it was 1969. Vietnam was going hot and heavy. I had registered for the draft. I was 1A with Ethel Kirkman in Greensboro. Anybody that knows who Ethel is, the draft lady. Just waiting to be called. A lot of my friends was sitting around one night, actually waiting on the first draft, the first lottery draft. So I took my chance. My number come up way high. I wasn't called. And as you all know, you have love in your life during that age. When I graduated from school, my first plan was to go straight in. But as things change, things worked out. So, as I said, I was 1A for 4 years, never got called, and never dodged, and just things. I went on the fire department in '71.
The training.
Process for me, when we was hired, it was about 14 of us hired in October, and the training would consist of 6 to 7 weeks. But we came on, was hired in October, most of us. Some of my class members was me, Eddie Nix, Joe Smith, Danny Waller, Tom Slatchy, Bob Boss, and I can name every one of them, except for a couple of them that got terminated before. And before our training started, while we was hired in October, they would teach us just enough to catch a fire hydrant. And that's about all we could do. Then we was assigned to a station, and then that following February was when a training class started. So basically, you can say we was assigned to a station to catch fire hydrants, help with cleanup, help with manpower, until we was through with training. And then we was permanently assigned.
So you remember?
My starting salary, I still have my first pay stub, actually several pay stubs of $513 a month, and thought I was a millionaire at that time. Training officers, Bill Osborne and Reese Kent, great guys, both of them, hard but great. The training was hard, very hard, and enjoyed every minute. Everybody carried their own. A lot of them was veterans, because they got first crack at employment. By getting hired, I had to worry Chief Powell a little bit to get hired, or Chief Boucher at the time, but he was able to fit me in. There's a lot of funny stories. I guess me and Eddie Nix got to serve more 6 hours on Saturday probably than anybody. That's what they do to you when you got in trouble or did something you weren't supposed to. They'd make you come back on Saturday morning. But overall, it was great. One of the funny stories was sitting in the garage. That's where we had lunch at. We brown bagged, a lot of us back then, and me and Joe Smith was sitting on the bumper of one of the American LaFrancis eating a sandwich or crackers or something, and Joe was spinning that siren on the front of the bumper, a big heavy sirens you could spin. It'd just make that siren sound, and we saw one of the chiefs come, and so Joe stuck his finger down in the slot of that machine, and just lucky it didn't cut off, but it smacked his finger, and when he pulled it out, immediately looked like a plum grew on the end of that finger. I mean, it was a blood blister. And to me, of course, you'd laugh.
Yeah.
I did. At the time I got on, I was looking for the excitement. As I stated, I was real close to go ahead and join in the service, and I needed some excitement in the life. And every day was different. Hours might have been long to some people. To me, I loved it. I don't think I'd have changed a thing, but yes. And then when you get a chance to help somebody, that was a great benefit. Oh, it's unreal, knowing you don't expect anything in return for it, but when you save somebody's or brought somebody's husband or wife back that's got several years of age on them, and seeing an expression on their face is a wonderful, wonderful deal. Or several experiences that way. Well, my first medical call over at Station 5, before we had went through training, basically, I was assigned over there, and back then they didn't have squads, QRVs. They had a rescue panel, old panel rescue trucks. We got a call from Mallard Lakes Apartments off of Lawndale. They was under construction at the time, and I was assigned to ride it. And when we got there, it was a cave-in. And they had two young men, I call them young now, they was in their 20s at the time, the walls had caved in, and they was buried. And of course, everybody shoveled and trying to get them out. Well, the long story short, they ended up had the backhoe there. They made about 4 sweeps with that backhoe and was able to seen the arm flop over. And the boys evidently, when the wall was caving in, they was in the running position, getting out, and the wall caved in, they were still in a running position. Unfortunately, they didn't make it. That's the only time in my career at the very start that it'll make you rethink, is this for you or not for you, and I'm glad I made the decision. Well, there again, first, I'll consider my first station assignment after training, and that was Station 11. I never will forget it. Greatest day, one of the greatest days of our life. I knew I was in the right place when Showed up that Monday, it was a Sunday morning. Engine 11 was backing into the house. They just come off of Plott Street. They had a fire death there. And I was working with 2 or 3 fine gentlemen, good looking fellow named Larry Cockman there. They took care of me, showed me where to put my stuff, where to sleep, where to do everything. They just watched after me. And that day was probably the busiest day I have ever had on Greensboro Fire Department. Before 8 o'clock came, we got a 3-alarm fire downtown. Jumped on the truck, went downtown, laid 2 lines in, 2 lines out on South Elm Street. Never will forget it. And fought fire that morning till midday. Got ready, took her stuff up, went back to the station. Thought we'd get something to eat. Wrong again. Got a call back then. The brush truck was stationed with us at Station 11. Got a call off Summit Avenue, Southern Webbing Mill area. Had a big grass fire, and that's when Chief Manus was captain then. He was there and we assisted him with the woods fire all that day. Had those little old Indian hell pumps you pumped and squirted water with. Where what started was the train come down and caught the brush on fire. Backed into the station that afternoon late, hadn't even cleaned the equipment good yet, and then we got a house fire down off of South Elm Street Extension. And very exciting day that day. I asked Larry, I said, y'all ride this way every single day? Pretty much. But never will forget those days. I worked with Larry, and Joe Daniels was there, Richard Cates, I believe it was, and J.B. Nicholson was my first fire captain there, John B. And learn a lot. I do have a nickname that was given to me, it's Little Head, and I'll explain my situation. There's 2 Jim Williamses on the fire department at that time, and the story is, his wife is in real estate, mine was in real estate, my wife was in real estate, his wife worked for Prudential, mine worked for Prudential. We were both stationed at the same station at the same time, and we'd get calls on the phone, speak to Jim Williams. Which one? Well, they had to find some way to determine how Big Head and Little Head, the other Jim Williams named Big Head. Well, he got his name, they say, from a captain that was there that asked to borrow his motorcycle helmet to go pick some apples out in the backyard. He asked him what he wanted his helmet for. He said, I want to go pick me a bushel of apples before I go home. And from then on, it was Big Head or Little Head. And so I was fine with Little Head. But one of the funniest that I can remember, that the cleanest that I can tell, was worked with a captain, Captain Sid Ray. I loved him to death. We was paired together. We had great times at Station 10 before I retired, and we had a young rookie with us. Well, Captain Ray had his bedroom up front, and I had a bedroom in the back, away from the men slept in the dormitory. Well, Captain Ray came in one day. Has anybody seen his TV remote? Well, his TV remote was gone. And he said, no, Captain, the rookie said, I guess Captain Graves might have left it in his ditty bag, threw it in his bag, carried it home with him. He said, dang, he didn't have it. So that night when it got time to go to bed, Captain Ray, he moved kind of slow. Had a back was hurting him sometimes. So he went up front, and a couple of us was out front of the station looking through the window. And you could see him. He'd get up there, he'd cut his TV on, he got it all, channel all fixed up, and got down beside his bed and took his pants all off and pulled his bed back and got in there and pulled his covers up good and laying there, and all of a sudden the TV channel changed. He's God dang, got up. Take him forever again. Get up there and he mess with that TV, get his channel back on. Well, the rookie was outside the window changing those channels on him every time. That was probably one of the funniest. Well, I enjoyed station life. I fit in quite well with it, and it's a routine. I'm a creature of habit. I personally, myself, would get to the stations before 7 o'clock in the morning and was asked why, and it's my benefit, nobody else's. For where I lived at, traffic and all, I wanted to get there in time. But basically after the tunes, I would get there in order to relieve the off-going captain the ability to take a shower, clean up without getting a call, because a lot of us work part-time jobs, and I could get there and I'd knock on his door and I'd say, I've got you covered. He could take his time, clean up, and of course, we was there. But I loved the routine. I loved it. Every Monday was the same. Tuesdays, of course, that fluctuated depending on what your schedule was, but the cleanliness of the station, we was proud of the way we kept the stations clean. Mondays was, you know, apparatus day, and Tuesdays certain days, Wednesdays, Thursdays, etc. Each station, most of us was the same days, but some stations were a little different. I was assigned to Central Station. Now they had a little different details downtown, you know. Cooking to me, I understand now it's a dying art, but back then to me was the greatest time in the world, not necessarily the cooking part, but the fellowship. Sitting around the tables, probably the best psychologist anybody could have is sitting around the table after a bad call or bad scene. You could talk about it, you'd air it out, and that's our way of unloading. But we had there's some cooks in the Greensboro Fire Department. I'd put them against any of them on TV. There's some great cooks. Well, they said I got some compliments, especially off of, I'd make 2 pan of biscuits, about 24 pan each day, twice a day. But my favorites was country style steak, and the other was baby back ribs, you know, and fish on Fridays. As Captain Barnett said, politicking sometime you'd have everybody out and have a fish fry. We had class from 1 to 3 every day doing something, be it studying streets or going over the apparatus. Every day is a class day. I was fortunate in my career to have the best drivers in my opinion. I'm sure they're all good, but I've had some, but I had the same driver for approximately 15 years, greatest guy in the world, F.O. Evans. That truck was spotless, it was always ready. I never had to worry about it. Advantages of having your own individual space, to me, I was on the Fire Station Design Committee, and we did put the cubicles in play, and that's after the women came. It's not as much privacy as you think, because the walls don't go to the ceiling, and it gives them, because the heat and air flow, so it could flow. But it would give a man privacy to study for upcoming captain's exams or battalion chief's exam or whatever exam you're going to have. It give you a little privacy. Now, I never had the luxury of being in one during my career, because once we got promoted, we got our own room most of the time. And to me, that was a plus. That was one of the things that inspired you to make captain, to get your own room out of the dormitory of everybody. Well, yeah, when you 6 or 8 guys laid in the bed, or up Central, for instance, it's probably 20 of us, 25 of us laying. You get to know each other better. You have no hidden secrets what to say. We was at Station 10. I called it the Great American Smokeout. Captain Atkins, or he wasn't the captain at the time, Robert Atkins, had got one of these cigars, about like a hunk of Italian sausage that you get at the fair when you win a treat, a big long cigar. Well, we had a guy at the station that just could not stand cigarette smoke, cigar smoke, or anything, Langley. He'd go to bed early, and he went to bed one night, covered his head up, and there's Atkins. He said, "We got to do something." And they said, "Let's smoke him out." So outside the fire station, there was a piece of PVC pipe, 1/2-inch PVC pipe, about 30 feet long. Well, it took 3 or 4 guys to hold the doors open. We had to snake that thing through the fire station. He set a chair up in the shower. It went from the shower, through the bathroom, through the locker room, through the bedroom, to the man's bed. He picked the cover up and stuck it under the end of it under the bed. Well, there he was. He lit that big old cigar up that's probably 3 inches around and 12 inches long. He started puffing on the thing, blowing it through that pipe. He did it until he just got so dizzy he couldn't do it in the morning, and somebody else would take over. Well, finally, we look, but we don't see anything. It's not working. So somebody walked, tiptoed in there and raised the cover up and looked, and he blew, and it looked like white paint was coming out. I think it's so thick. He stuck it back under the bed, but before he could get out, the man woke up. Lord, when he threw that cover back off that bed, it looked like an Indian smoke signal came. I mean, that whole bedroom just, boom, instantly was filled. You couldn't even see him, and he was raising Cain. Well, no sleep that night, I can tell you. I've been gone a while. When I was there, I mean, you still had the odd ball games or things like that they might go to. When I was a young man on there, some of us hunted together, fished together, things like that, but I don't know how it is now. We would be close, but you always, you know, the officers still kept their distance a little bit. You know, you still had to respect the rank. I hope to say I've made friends that'll last a lifetime, whether you see each other once a week or once every 5 years. You love them. I think you love them more now than you did then, because you didn't have the time in your life as you catch yourself having now, and you get to think a little bit more deeper about what things mean. Yeah. Medical calls progressed quite heavily as time went on, because it was determined that the fire department could be anywhere within 4 minutes within the city limits of Greensboro, and EMS didn't have enough equipment to go around per se. It took them a little while longer, so all of us was trained EMT when we come out of training. But when I came out, it wasn't, but you got your EMT, and it really helped the medical situation. 9/11 affected me, and I, as with Barnett, remember exactly where I was at that time. I had just gotten off duty when I seen the first plane hit the tower, and then the second one. It affected me that you can relate what the firefighters do and what they was doing. There's no doubt in our mind, and through my career, I've met firefighters from New York to Florida. We're all the same. Every one of us is the same. It's just a different location, and you can find that out by dropping in one of them, whether you're in the Caribbean or whether you're in New York City or there again, Florida. We're all the same. They'll do anything. And when that alarm went off, it's no doubt in my mind, every fireman in Greensboro would have done the same thing. That's what they're paid to do. You don't look at it that way. It's a different situation in firemen and other people. You took that job to do it. And it's just, the world changed. United States changed. It would never be the same after that. Respect firefighters gained after 9/11 is tremendous. As another fireman said, it woke the public up, I believe, what we do. It gained respect. I think it become a trend, lucky to be one, but it's not that simple. Before I left, I was assisted training division, was running agility test, and I can remember one time I had 23 openings and had 700 applications. That's something to be proud of for a Southside Greensboro boy with a high school education. I mean, these guys had 4-year degrees, and they're choosing. Who played a big influence in my life was some of the people that I was mentored by. I'd like to say had a big part of my career. Some of my first cat was Al Stewart, Donnie Barner, Ronnie Osborne, and one that impressed me quite a bit when I come on. He hadn't been promoted yet. Was Steve Faust. Steve was good. Not a lot of people remember him, but some of his old guys do. And Steve, I just liked the way his mannerisms. Very, very professional. I was a boy when I went on, and unfortunately, in 1984, I lost both my parents, and no male figures, no brothers, of course. And that's at a stage in your life that you needed some answers to questions in life, how to go about certain things, experiences, and it changed me. I have a lot of respect for every one of them, every single one of them. proudest moments when, my proudest moment when Chief Powell handed me my badge, slid it across the table, June the 1st, in '84. And my dad was laying in the hospital. He had cancer. He was dying. He only had a few days, and I was able to go up there and put my white hat on his head. And he smiled. And then he died on June the 10th, so we made it a few days to see it. But he got to see it. My most heartbreaking moment, there again, I can remember that also. June the 10th, 2003. Same day my father died. The guys at the station was asking me, you know, he said, "Captain, you look sad today." I said, "No, it's just a bad day. My father died 19 years ago." Well, that night my son got killed. Same day, and I was on duty. That's not a hard day to come up with, and you can relate to that also. Yeah, I mean, you have feelings, especially if you worked with them, and I feel sorry for one thing about the firemen up in New York, and it can be here also, depending, as they're dying from the exposure they was exposed to. And that's not fair for the city not taking care of them, where their fund was running out, and they just recently had to go fight to get that refunded. They shouldn't have to put up with that. You know, we all know the responsibilities, we all know the risk, and we all expecting it. If you want to be honest with yourself, we're just expecting for it any day. And we can't question that, because we know what we was exposed to. But thank God for every day we've got. Female firefighters, I was fortunate to be promoted before they came on, and actually was assigned one. And I've seen the conflict between firemen and their families and wives with the females, but we knew it was happening. As far as their abilities go, I'll answer you honestly the way I used to answer anybody else. I've seen good ones and I've seen bad ones. I've seen some that could outperform men, and I've seen some men that shouldn't be here, I just said. But no, I was fine with work. Mine, the one that I had, was a good worker. If I was able to go back on, even ride the tailboard of the truck, I'd do it again. I loved it. Loved every minute. I have nothing bad to say. It's the greatest organization in the world. I will tell anybody that. And people on the outside look at you when you tell them, say, you miss your job or you had it, and they said they loved every minute they was gone on the office job. But to me, I loved every single minute.
Faith, I believe that question was asked, and faith plays a huge part in my life now. If it hadn't been for my wife, Charlotte, we've been together 47 years. She's been with me through the thick and the thin, and we give each other breath when we needed to take that deep breath. I've got the greatest daughter in the world, Alicia. She's been right there for me, and her husband, Shane. And what gave me breath of life again was the 3 beautiful grandkids I have. Jameson and Ty Pugh, a little grandson, and Jimmy had a little daughter before he had his accident, and her name's Cameron. And they all give me life to this day, and so my faith plays a big part of it.
It's important when you go visit a firehouse to maybe have some open arms. And recently when I've gone back, really it surprised me that they just clung to you like a magnet. And we had a great conversation, but I have been in some where if they didn't know you or whatever, they would drift on off. If they're lucky, you might say something smart or say something intelligent to them, or you could tell them some things about that firehouse, for instance. And one thing I've learned is when I used to be at the station as a rookie and old firefighters would come in, you'd look at them and always respectful, always, because they've been in your shoes. And some of the young guys now, if they keep in mind that those older guys had it a lot worse than you did. They've got all the, and to their advantage, new equipment, new apparatus, you know, everything they've got is great. And if they just stop and think about it, those old guys was putting fires out a lot of times without all that stuff. Some of the big fires, I consider myself fortunate to have been on them. Both tanker train collisions in Greensboro, they've had two. Unfortunately, they made international news. We was first responding companies on both of them. The Carolina Theater, I was on the Carolina Theater. A lot of apartment complexes. I've been fortunate. The only one I wished I'd have been on was the Davie Street, but I got to go the next morning. And I called in the night at Davie Street, and they just wanted your report in. They just wanted a backup where they could call you if needed. Unfortunately, it wasn't needed, but that's what you live for. Enjoy every minute of it. Don't wish for 30 years to hurry up and be here, because it will, and it'll be gone before you know it. More than anything, just be on promotions, be respectful to everyone. The rank don't make you a person. When you get off after your 24-hour shift, those men put their britches on the same way, and they're just as important as their wife, daughters, their communities, or churches. They're just as important as you are when you set that badge down. Just, they're human beings. Respect that and treat them with such. If I was speaking to a bunch of new captains, respect your men. Your men make you or break you. You can learn that the easy way, or you can learn it the hard way. But when I was captain on hazmat, it was not a decision made that you didn't get everybody's opinion before you made that final decision. Now, you are ultimately responsible for answering if things go bad, but every single one of us would come up with a decision before we did it. And the same goes on a fire. I mean, sometimes you can't have a meeting with your men. You make the call, and hopefully that's why they promoted you. You make the right call. But don't belittle anybody's opinion, whether it's the rookies or anybody. Give them respect, and at least listen to them. Jimmy Williams, since he's left the department, hopefully have not changed a lot. As I mentioned later or earlier, that you mellow out more. I try to be more helpful. I've always wanted to help people. I'm still the same way. More church going, as I stated, I've always believed in God. Maybe I didn't show it back in my earlier days, but I did. My 38 years was here and gone before I could blink an eye. And I sit and I look at older people, and before long, you look around, you're one of those.
We hope you enjoyed watching these documentaries. It was our goal to share and preserve the memories of our retired Greensboro firefighters. It is our desire that these documentaries will inspire future generations to continue the brotherhood, sisterhood, and camaraderie while always striving for excellence in their careers. While fire apparatus, equipment, and technology have improved, several things will always remain the same. The courage and bravery it takes to mitigate natural and man-made disasters will always be a part of the job. Although our retirees are no longer a physical part of the GFD world, a giant piece of each retiree's memories have been shared with you today. These memories will be in their hearts and minds forever. A special thank you goes out to Captain Harold Haney for his many long hours of recording and editing. Thank you, Harold. A job well done.